Hey team, today we're going to talk about the Northwest Ordinance. This will lay the foundation for how our great state of Ohio came into existence. So make sure you have the note sheet that I provided to you in front of you, a writing utensil, and let's get ready to roll. Alright, so in this video, we will talk about how our first form of government post-independence began to take shape. So by the end of this video, we should be able to identify why the Northwest Ordinance was important to the founding of Ohio. Alright, so the Northwest Territory is this designated area of land that includes the states of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, and parts of Minnesota. So we can see in this map, it's essentially almost all of the states that surround the Great Lakes. So the Treaty of Paris was signed at the end of the American Revolution in 1783. And so Great Britain gave up all of their lands that extended to the Mississippi River. And so we can see in this map the British possessions that were in Canada and the Spanish possessions that are west of what is now in Illinois and Indiana. And so the United States had to figure out what to do with all of this land. And so a lot of the original 13 states began making claims in this newly won territory and claiming bits and pieces of this land. So Thomas Jefferson comes up with this temporary solution. He wants to see the land become new, separate states where slavery will not exist after 1800. Okay, so Congress meets and they passed a law that was the Land Ordinance of 1785. And this established a system where settlers could purchase land in this newly acquired territory. So he kind of wanted to slow down this race to grab land after the Treaty of Paris by establishing a procedure where settlers could claim territory. So through this, we have a question of what was solved. Since Congress could not tax the citizens, selling land at a public auction would help to benefit the new United States government and solve the greatest problem that they faced at the time, which was this huge debt after the American Revolution. So the United States government because of this debt, they were unable to pay most of their veterans. And so we have these continental banknotes, and this was a form of investment, and the value of these banknotes had dropped substantially. So in order to repay the veterans, Congress offered them land in the Northwest Territory. So instead of being able to receive a paycheck of any kind, instead they get a piece of land. They get that ownership. So then we have the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, and this was a law that established the Northwest Territory, those states of Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, that were first organized territory beyond the Appalachians, and they formed a political system for the region. So the Northwest Ordinance, what it did was it provided a system in which governments could be established in these new territories. So how do these new territories become states is really what the Northwest Ordinance did. So when a territory reaches 5,000 free adult males, they can elect a state legislature. This is that process that I was referring to. The very first thing they have to do is reach this certain population mark. Once a territory reaches 60,000 people and they form their own constitution, then they become a state. Before I move on, make sure that you have all of these three parts in your notes, both the definition and also those two requirements to become a state. The 5,000 people, free adult males, and electing a state legislature, and then the 60,000 and having a constitution. So the Northwest Territory lands were to be surveyed and divided up into townships. So the largest division of land that was typically 36 square miles and divided into 36 1 square mile sections is a township. Each 1 mile section was 640 acres. So we can see how small a township was in regards to this larger map that pictures Ohio, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And so based on the Ordinance of 1785, we have these 7 ranges of townships and how large they are. So we have this 6 mile by 6 mile square area that's this township. And then we also can see in this smaller tan map how they divided the different one given township, and then how they reserved one piece of this township to be a school. And so just for scale, we have this football field to show you a comparison. There we have it, 1 acre. Not quite the full football field, but most of it. So 31 of the 36 sections in each township would be made available for the general public to own in a land auction. Land was available for $1 per acre, which is extremely cheap. So all money that was raised from the initial auctions to the public would be given to Congress to help the new U.S. government get its footing. The catch, however, is that only available to citizens who could purchase an entire section of 640 acres initially. So all bidding began at $640, aka $1 per acre. So the land speculators who made a bid and won a section could sell individual smaller portions of it after the initial auction and make a profit from it. So since Congress wasn't able to pay them, they reserved 4 sections in each township for veterans as payment, sections 8, 11, 26, and 29. And then section 16, as I referenced earlier, was reserved for a very special and important institution, a school. Veterans, 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 school. All right, and that wraps up the video. So if you missed a question, make sure you rewind and pause it and make sure your notes are complete before you move on to the next step. The next step is to get a Bill of Rights packet from yours truly, me.